Welcome back to Morning Brew with the Homeowners. I'm your host, Dmitry. This is the best show for the homeowners who have any troubles with their insurance claims, home projects. Maybe you already have a dispute with the contractors. We are here to help you navigate through the process. Today's topic is all about insurance claims. We're going to bring you 4 cases to discuss. All of them are examples of what can go wrong when a contractor or public adjuster involved in an insurance claim. And I have 2 public adjusters in the studio today and a contractor from Florida, Jason Reisman, flew in for the podcast earlier on, and Matt Morgan from Texas, also state representative, and Sam Cook, public adjuster from St. Paul, Minnesota. So thank you guys for being here. A little bit tight in the studio, but this is how we like it. So first story. They hired a public adjuster and lost their entire policy. This started with a fire at an apartment building in Washington. The owners brought in a public adjuster named Paul Moreland to help settle the insurance claim. They went through appraisal and got another $188,000. But it turns out Moreland did not have a license during most of the claim. On top of that, he picked his best friend and former business partner to act as independent appraiser and didn't tell anyone about it. The insurance company sued, and the court said Moreland committed fraud. Even though the owners of the building hadn't done anything wrong, their entire policy was voided. So we do have a victim, which is homeowners. My question to Matt is, have you seen this scenario play out in your career?
I haven't seen anything exactly like this, but you have to be careful who you let represent you and how and why, because there's reasons why people have licenses. In the state of Texas and most other states, we have to be bonded and insured as well as public adjusters. And so therefore, it's easy to go to a state's website to check that stuff. Homeowners and need to be careful to ensure that who they're hiring is somebody they actually want to hire and bring aboard.
Sam, how often do you see that public adjusters are bringing appraisers from their circles? Because I know the problem is real. It's who knows who is. Everybody has a little list of, approved people, kind of know that it's going to be in your favor.
That is that hard part, right? Like if you're picking an appraiser, you obviously want them to represent good and have similar beliefs to you about what damage is, what repairability is, all these different aspects, specifically with roof claims. So even us, like I have a list of 4 or 5 people that I would select as an umpire, maybe a list of 3 or 4 that I would recommend as an appraiser. Now, I haven't had any business directly with them in the past. I haven't, a lot of these things about being independent is where they kind of cross that line. But yeah, every public adjuster, if you're going to recommend a client's claim go to appraisal, it's very critical that whoever you pick is going to hold the same values as you, the same beliefs as you, so that claim actually is awarded the way it should.
My question is, who did the homeowner sue? Like, did they sue back to is that how that would work?
Yeah. So if I was the homeowner, if I was, advising them, and I'm not an attorney, although I did sleep at a Holiday Inn Express last night. So I would sue sue both the Paul Moreland and his business partner. I'd go after both of them for that, because they're the reason this got voided and I wasn't paid out what I should have been paid out on this claim.
So Sam or Matt, can you explain, we're 3rd graders here, what's appraisal process looks like? Like, what's appraisal in the first place for those who don't know what it is?
So the appraisal process is when you have agreed that there's damages to a property and you have a difference in value or cost to do the repairs for that, then that's when appraisal is most appropriately applied, is to determine, okay, you say the roof is going to cost $20,000. The contractor said, insurance company says $20,000. The contractor says $30,000. And to resolve the difference between the two, appraisal is an appropriate avenue to use and do that with.
Yeah. What's your best experience with appraisal?
I have a lot of appraisal experience. Before that, even for homeowners that have zero idea, appraisal's like roof court. So if you just ultimately disagree with your insurance company, it's kind of that step before, or it's a lot easier than actual litigation. It's a type of like arbitration, right? So you name an appraiser, the insurance company names an appraiser, the 2 of them agree on an umpire, all 3 go on site, they fist fight it out, argue, come to a final decision, and that's called the appraisal award. So it's like a very expedited court case in some ways, right? It's this very simple process. It's not actually a route of litigation, but it's the easiest way for most people to understand it. I mean, I see appraisal stuff all the time where the carrier pays minimal to nothing, and then by the end of it, it goes to it all. But it very much differs state to state. Some states like Minnesota, Iowa, we have what's called causation. Minnesota, we can take a claim from a goose egg to full roof replacement, $100,000, all this. A lot of states are limited. A lot of states don't have that. So it is just down to the actual pricing or scope of repair disputes.
And sorry, to add into that point, I would say you want to be careful at times with appraisal, and depending on the state you're operating in, you can give up rights having a client go to appraisal that they may not know or want to give up versus choosing a different path as well, if that makes sense. So there are point in places where appraisal makes a lot of sense, and there are places where it does not. And so you just have to make sure that the client is the one making the end decisions and that they have the information they need to make an accurate decision.
The most important part of that is that an appraisal award is binding. There's no going back. There's no supplementing, right? It's what the appraisal panel determines is it. And the one thing that I always bring up contracts, I see many will invoke appraisal very quickly or recommend the homeowner invoke appraisal. But if there's undiscoverable damages, that gets very sticky on the back end. You know, if you end up tearing the roof off and find out the decking needs to be replaced or, you know, sheathed over, and no one pointed out to the appraisal panel, it's very difficult to get the carrier to go back and readdress that.
Is it a homeowner's problem here? Is it a homework problem? Because how do we avoid situation like this in the future? Because it seems to me like your definition is they pick appraiser. So if insurance approved the appraisal, you know, both sides agreed who it's going to be, how can issue arise later because we both agree? So they did not, I guess the disclosure was not done.
Well,
it's unethical. So this scenario here, the parties were being unethical. I mean, the guy didn't have a license to be a public adjuster, and then he got, you know, his childhood best friend, business partner, whatever, to be his appraiser on his side. So, you know, that's like Texas is going through changing the law in the appraisal process, and the TDI commissioner, Texas Department of Insurance commissioners, setting rules for that. One of the things I asked the commissioner to put in there was making a statement that all parties must act ethically, because that's what's missing from this scenario, and probably most of the scenarios we're going to talk about today.
But the homeowner wouldn't know that. That's the biggest issue is how does the homeowner even know that? And I mean, obviously they could sue back and hopefully recover that, but how do you know as a homeowner? You wouldn't.
I want to know how they found Paul Moreland, right? How did the homeowner originally come in contact with this person? Because that's a piece that's missing from here. But, you know, how did they come in contact? Because that's where I think, did Paul have a website claiming to be a public adjuster and wasn't?
So it looks like he was working underneath a different firm, the firm HMA Adjusting. But yeah, it turns out he wasn't licensed until 2 years into the claim.
That also tells you how long these cases sometimes take. And, you know, 2 years is a long time, but we're dealing with a fire and, you know, it's sad. But unfortunately, you know, think about 2 years. 2 years later, and now he's licensed. Probably one of the first jobs, you know, that he got under his belt. Also very interesting here that court ruled that the policy was void, but the opinion does not order the building owners to return the money already paid. So they did pay out the initial claim. They got plus $188,000 appraisal award before the lawsuit. But the court says you don't have to pay it back, which is a win for the homeowner. But now they need new policy, which is a big deal. I mean, think about it, like of that disaster. If you just lost your house, I mean, it's probably a total loss with all the smoke and stuff. Now you do need new policy. Crazy story. Any last thoughts on this one?
Do your due diligence and act ethically and hire ethical people.
That's if you're public adjusters. What about you, Sam?
No, I agree. I mean, all of it's public record. You can see if someone is licensed, see if they're in good standing. And if you're a homeowner hiring a public adjuster or a contractor, anyone you're hiring, you should make sure they have the required licenses and have compliance to do what they're saying they're going to do.
Especially on the claims that are a couple $100,000, something as big as fire. You know, small homework, checking licenses does not go a long way. It'll save you a lot of headaches. We're going to take a break. When we're going to come back, we will talk about another crazy story today, how contractors' emails cost him $12,000. Don't go anywhere.
Roofers and contractors fix the damage, we fix the insurance problem. Too often, insurance companies delay, deny, or underpay, leaving property owners stuck and your work on hold. That delay costs your client and costs you. At the Chadsey Wilson Law Firm, we cut through the stall tactics and fight for full payment, so projects move forward and checks get written. Together, we can anchor the scales and make insurance accountable for their promises.
And we are back, bringing you more spicy stories. I'm on my third cup of coffee. Hope you have something hot in your hands because it's cold outside. Next story is another fire case from Illinois. Jason has the details.
Yeah, this one's hot with a fire. This one started with a house fire in Illinois. Matthew and Marisa Bean hired Chicago Water and Fire Restoration to handle the cleanup and plan reconstruction. They billed almost $13,000 after the initial cleanup, but insurance only approved $4,000. CWFR tried lowering its invoice, but the insurer didn't budge. The Beans refused to pay more out of pocket and hired someone else for the construction phase. Chicago Water and Fire sued. When the case went to court, emails showed that CWFR staff telling the Beans they would negotiate with the insurer and reach an agreed price. They also promised the Beans they would only be responsible for the deductible. The court said that CWFR acted as an unlicensed public adjuster, making the contract void.
So I guess, do you know, do you do a lot of storm restoration, like a water fire case like this?
Sure.
Do as well. How different is it from roofing? Reading this story, it looks like same rules apply, unlicensed public adjuster. How often insurance companies go after that?
So fire claims go through a whole different category, honestly. You think roofing claims go through scrutiny? It's a whole different ball of wax when you get to fires, because they're looking for arson and other things that would, someone else that they can point the finger to, whether it be a defective thing in a stove that caused the fire or AC unit or something that they can try and recover funds from. So it takes a lot longer.
So they're looking
Everything's
for
a lot
someone
slower.
to pay for it.
They're looking for someone to collect the money that they're paying out for. So the scrutiny, the level of scrutiny that every dime that gets paid on a fire claim is 10 times more than a roofing claim.
Really?
Wow. Yes.
Sam, do you have experience with the fire claims?
Up Minnesota, considering everything's covered in ice half the year, we have a lot less fires. So no, a lot of states we work, we're specifically like hail and wind, some hurricane stuff as well.
What would you say the reasonable cleanup fee? So here, we don't see big, numbers. $13,000 for initial cleanup. Is it reasonable in your opinion?
Depends on what the fire was, right? Was it contained to just the kitchen, and we're talking about a grease fire from, your 13-year-old daughter making French fries, and had a little grease fire or something, or did it get out of control? How much did it affect? How long did the fire burn, right? But $13,000 is not generally excessive in any stretch of the imagination. I have seen contractors get paid $30,000 just for moving contents out of a house and storing them. So,
would you say it's uncommon? I'm assuming the carrier wrote their estimate and exact estimate, maybe some ability in this case. But if the carrier's at $4,000 on their initial cleanup, typically when I see that, I'm like, okay, they're probably a quarter of what it should be. That's typical with cleanup, initial review of it. So the $12,000 doesn't seem like they're being that unreasonable just based off the numbers we have. What do you think?
Don't disagree again at all. I think, again, it would have to be a single, in my mind, having written thousands of these and Xactimate over the years, it would have to be a really, really small fire contained to one room for it to be a $4,000 cleanup.
Here's my big question here, and this is something for the homeowners and from our contractors as a lesson. Where's that line where, as a contractor, we like to help people, and what happened here seems like the contractor promised that they're only going to pay the deductible. And with that, they went and proceed to do the work, hoping insurance will pay for it. And this actually happens pretty often in industry. Then, insurance denied, and what ended up happening is company filed mechanics lien or looking for a mechanics legal for $4,700, the unpaid difference. Does the homeowner owes that amount, or in case of insurance not? I guess fire cases are a little bit different because it's emergency service. It's the same in the roofing. We put emergency tarps, but we promise homeowner, hey, you're only responsible for deductible. Insurance will pay for the rest. But if insurance is not paying for the rest, shouldn't they just eat the losses?
Well, to clarify, this is outside. This isn't considered emergency because it's the cleanup after the fact, so it wouldn't be considered preventing further damages the way tarping would. Tarping's one of those things that's well protected, but it's like, Jason, have you ever installed a roof before the insurance approved it?
Never. No,
That's
and
kinda
I
what
wouldn't.
happened
Yeah,
here, right?
yeah.
Although I will add in, just because I've handled some of these, so depending on the fire, like if you have a porcelain tub, right, you need to, and that may have gotten ashes in it, you have to wipe that down, or porcelain sinks and stuff, because it will actually eat through that, and you'll damage and have to replace that if you don't, or recoat it at least. So there is some things that can help prevent, or you need to contain the smoke area so that it doesn't get into your AC system and go throughout the rest of the house. So there are some, how much of it, don't know, right? Some of this could just have been wiping down, furniture and other things, but some of it actually was probably preventing additional damages from occurring.
That makes sense. It looks like the main reason they got nipped for this was the term negotiate. So they put in an email, we're going to negotiate, right? Yes. That's with Iowa, but Texas, that's been the UPPA back and forth, right? Is it that term negotiating that got them, you think?
I 100% agree. I think, and this is a Chicago case, so it's from Illinois, but I would believe that it's the term, I'm going to negotiate your claim on your behalf. You're not allowed to negotiate on the behalf if you're a contractor. And look at the contractor at the end table here. Isn't that your understanding of it as well? Make sure we're on the same page here.
Yeah, we're real careful in that environment. Like, we're going to hand it over to a lawyer, a PA, somebody that can handle that, the legal side of it. We're just there to do the work, and we don't want to overstep, and that's what they did here. So, yeah, I think that the first thing we always do is hire legal help in something like this. Yeah.
So what you're telling me, they needed a public adjuster and stop communicating with the insurance companies via emails.
Well, they got sued anyway, is what it looks like, right? The carrier for not paying enough on the entire claim. So, yes, stop at times, stop talking, listen, and just move it to the next person and the expert.
I'm curious what you guys both think, because this is Chicago. In Chicago, you can technically be adjuster and you can actually be contractor. What's your take on it? Because that's like the biggest conflict of interest in the country.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
And how historically did it happen there? Like, do you know?
I don't know the history. It's very different laws. It's like Louisiana is next to us and they're under Napoleonic law, and the rest of the world is, or the rest of the country is not, right? We're under common law, which is from England. So it's a very different place to operate in. So Illinois is the same way, which is why I personally have never been licensed there. Don't intend to be personally licensed there.
100% the same. And I get a lot of calls from Illinois contractors and stuff. Hey, can you help? No.
Why not? Why not?
If every contractor be a PA, I've heard enough horror stories, but just the fact that if a contractor can also be a PA, everything gets skewed. Even adjusters on the carrier side, they see an Illinois claim and they just kind of go, darn it, they're not.
But in this case, if this contractor would be also a PA, like what would happen? He could communicate the way they communicate.
Yeah. Right. You just have to have signed both contracts. So one for the restoration work and one for the PA stuff. But then, yes, they could, which is, anyway, it's interesting.
If the contractor would have had a better contract with the homeowner, it says we don't negotiate, like if he had a real clear contract, would it have changed this case at all?
Well, in this case, I don't think it was the contract.
It was just the word negotiate?
It was in the email. So they
Yeah.
emailed saying we'll negotiate. It wasn't even in the contract.
That's what does it, right? Even if you had a really good contract itself and says that we don't negotiate, we just, help the process or whatever it may be, it doesn't matter, right?
That's just the starting document. It's what do you actually do, right? If you're crossing the line and you're crossing the line because your contract says we don't negotiate, and then you're really negotiating, well, then you're crossing a line.
Let me ask you this: Will disclaimer help with the situation? You know, like on YouTube, and lawyers have it all the time. Like, what if this contractor would have a disclaimer, legal notice, like we're not, we can't adjust the claims, what's not. Lawyers do it all the time, like secure communication, blah, 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 like disclaimers. Will that help?
I don't know. I mean, possible. We don't have the emails to look at. We didn't see what the judge saw. If they're just trying to say, look, this is what our bill is, we need to get paid what our bill is, we're willing to discount it just to get paid, I think that's fine. But it's, I'm going to go back to, I really think we're going to negotiate this with you, blah, blah, blah. And what I feel for is the homeowner too is, look, at the end of the day, in the claims process, the insured is responsible for their deductible. They shouldn't have to pay anything else. They should have to pay their deductible, and that's it.
Well, here's how I read the story, and this is a big trend in industry. The key moments for me is the claim is not a lot of money. We're talking about $4,000 to $12,000. We're not talking about hundreds of thousands. So I do see the insurances push harder and harder, and you literally can get sued and lose because of couple emails, couple words you use. I see contractors being sued for what they put on their trucks, how they advertise, the words they use in the flyer. I mean, little details. So it's harder and harder to be a contractor in this space, and for that reason, educate yourself, guys. Get help. Get a lawyer on speed dial. Get a public adjuster on speed dial. Hate to say it because it's probably cost you money, but that's the only way you can be in business, because you are the target. You're gonna lose money, and in this case, I mean, the contractor is the biggest loser because of the language he used in a couple emails, and we all probably have done it.
And they're gonna go scrutinize. Every insurance company is gonna go scrutinize every email in every case that this contractor's in to go dig even more to see if they can get out of paying more money. It puts a big target on your back. So yes, look at it like this. The insurance companies have way more money than you, and they have a lot more attorneys than you. So do yourself a favor, do the right thing, do your research, do your homework, understand the state laws, understand, what you need to do to protect yourself.
And if you think we're done with the fire story, think again, because we have another fire coming up right after the break. This story will be all about public adjuster who takes homeowner to court and wins. Don't go anywhere.
In the world of roofing, every shingle, slope, and seal counts. At Work Ninjas, roofing isn't just our trade, it's our craft. With years of steering roofing companies to success, we've mastered the art of scaling businesses. We've built a team ready to support roofing business owners, and our experts are here to help you expand efficiently. Our experienced ninjas provide essential front and back end support. We tackle one-time projects and offer ongoing assistance, helping you streamline operations. Work Ninjas enhances your roofing business with services like customer service, virtual admin assistance, CRM management, commercial and residential estimating, production, billing, supplements, marketing, and more. Our model is straightforward. Flexible pricing, customizable to your needs. Use our services as much or as little as you need, full-time or part-time. When you partner with us, you get direct access to a team that's committed to your business, acting as a natural extension of your own office. Become a partner with the roofing experts at Work Ninjas today, and let's elevate your business to new heights.
And we are back. Thank you for sharing cup with us this morning. We have one more fire story. Matt, have the details. What's happening with this one?
Sure. So Danielle and Cynthia had hired a public adjuster, Joseph, on a contingency fee of 8% to help handle their claim. After long negotiations, the homeowner fired the public adjuster and hired an attorney. The insurance claim went to arbitration. The homeowner was awarded $400,000. When they refused to pay the public adjuster's fee, he sued. A jury awarded him $29,000 for the reasonable value of his work. The homeowner appealed, but the judge dismissed it for lack of jurisdiction, leaving the jury's verdict in place.
I'm pretty sure this happens a lot because commissions are, I feel like, is the easiest in people's mind to screw people out. Like usually people will say like, oh, he didn't do much and it's just few meetings, few phone calls. $29,000. Congrats to PA for pursuing it. How often does it happen that people hire PAs and don't pay them?
So I was actually just talking to my attorney this morning about this exact issue. So this is really close to home. But no, it's a lot of people look at public adjusters, go, yeah, you sent a few emails. You sent, same as you could look at an attorney and think the same thing. Like, what'd you do? You sent a few emails. You made a couple phone calls. But it's like the amount of time that goes into those is really insane. But public adjusters go unpaid a lot, right? As a contractor, you have the leverage of, well, I just won't do the work if you don't pay me. I won't come do the punch list, right? As an attorney, it's, well, I'll stop defending you, and you can't navigate your way through it. As a PA, you have a contractor and other people willing to jump in and, try to take it to the finish line, as you say. So have you ran into that as a public adjuster?
Oh, yes. Several times. In fact, even though I'm a state representative, I had a case that was pending and was with a law firm. And it was a case that, honestly, this person had hired an attorney before she hired me as a public adjuster. She fired the attorney. She hired us. We spent hundreds and hundreds of hours on her case. She was a hoarder and had a significant amount of property in her home, and she had a pipe burst claim. So interior water damage and tons of contents.
How big of the hoarder? One of those that you can do a reality show on?
There was one room that you could sit in.
Oh.
And this is a 4,000 square foot house.
Okay, so did you have to document all the contents?
Correct. So we have hundreds of hours in this case, and it's settled. And I knew it was going to settle because they were in mediation, and both the homeowner called me and the attorney called me during mediation to talk to me about the case and things I had written and part of my estimates and etc. And to help them get the value they needed to make the case be resolved. And so I knew the dollar amount that they settled it for. We kept following up to see, hey, when should we expect payments on this? And finally, my wife followed up, and they said, we're not paying you. And so then I called. I talked to the attorney, and the attorney's like, well, we're not paying you. We paid the homeowner. We're not going to pay you. The homeowner says we're absolved from this. And in most states, the law says that's not the case. The attorney can lose their license for doing that. If they know someone else has a claim to part of that money, they can't pay it out without paying the public adjuster. And so anyway, I made a few phone calls because I'm a state rep and was able to actually get that, the payment that I was owed on that. But
from the homeowner?
No, the attorney wrote the check.
Oh, wow.
So, but you shouldn't have to go through that. Anyone that works on a claim, if you're adding value to it, like, look, if you bring me if you're tarping a roof, right? You should be paid for, your guys should be paid for tarping because they are, you're paying them, and you should be paid for tarping. Whether you end up with that job or not, if you want it or not, right? If you go out and do work, you should be paid. We're doing work, we should be paid just like everyone else is. And so, I understand if I didn't do anything, I let the claim sit for 6 months and, I maybe sent one email in 6 months' time or something, then there's room for discussion on I didn't perform the duties of my end of that contract, right?
Here's my question here, because this case is a little bit more complicated than that. So after long negotiation, the homeowner fired PA and hired attorney. And then the claim went in arbitration and the homeowner were awarded to $400,000. I kind of see homeowner side. They're like, hey, you could not get us there. We hired lawyers. So, and it happens a lot because for those homeowners who don't know, lawyer will come with a fee, PA will come with a fee, contractor will come with a fee. Everything costs money, right? And in this case, you have arbitration. It's just too many fees. So they got $400,000, and I guess they have little amnesia who helped them along the way. But what about the fact that they fired public adjuster?
So when you work on a contingency fee basis, you can't be fired, basically. So in most states, it's after X number of days, 3 days, 5 days, 3 business days, 72 hours, something like that. And it's because you're not taking an hourly fee. If at the time of firing it was, or wanted to because it can't be it can't be a one-way firing in that. I can walk away, but I can be like, hey, I'm going to walk away, but I put 250 hours into, the job I was talking about or whatever, and you're going to pay me my hourly fee, which is X times the number of hours we put in. You write me a check and I'll walk away.
But it looks like they were fighting for 8%. I want to ask Jason, because Jason is the only roofer here. So Jason, you see the scenario, like you hire public adjuster, he's not getting you anywhere, then you replace him with an attorney. Attorney gets you results, but then public adjuster still bills you 8% of his fees, because he's not billing them hourly. He's billing them fees on essentially what attorney brought as a result. What would you do in this situation?
Yeah, I would still work with the adjuster and say, hey, we're moving this forward. I would make sure he's a part of the process and he's aware of where we're going to take it with the attorney, and then see what he wants out of it, what amount of hours he put in it. Like, I would negotiate with him to begin with. I'm not just going to leave him hang because he put work in. And contractors, we can lien the house, so we have ways to get paid versus the appraisal or the contract or the attorney. So, but I would make sure that we're all on the same page, because I don't want to ruin a relationship with a public adjuster neither.
Can public adjuster file a lien on the property?
In most states, no.
Because you're not touching the house?
We're not performing work. Yeah. So usually in most states, to put a lien on a house, you actually have to have performed work, like swung a hammer. And we're barred in most states from actually swinging a hammer.
Thank God.
I don't disagree, but I'm not bad on a roof.
Swing a pen.
It's a keyboard. Come on.
Yeah, it's and this is I've dealt with some situations where it goes to legal, or the homeowner gets in the way of the PA completing their duty. And if you're on a contract for a contingency basis and the person on the other side of that contract gets in the way of you completing your duties, they now owe you for what would have been reasonably expected or what your reasonable time put in at that point. There's a legal term for it, and I can't pronounce it. Too bad Clay's not here. He probably practiced that in school. But, it's essentially like it goes from the percentage to the reasonable time that you're owed. And so that's what the court agreed with, is that, you had reasonable work and value into it, and you're owed that.
I have a philosophical question for all of you guys. Why do you think this is so common in our industry? When homeowners get these checks from insurance companies, and a lot of times it's the biggest checks they ever handle, because usually, who has $400,000? Even if you have amazing job, unless you like Wolf of Wall Street, you don't see that kind of money. Why? Like in this case, it's a $400,000 check. They have to pay out $29,000. Is it because they don't appreciate or they think or judge someone else's performance? And why this is happening? Because this is not...
I think you answered your own question. It's the only time that a homeowner typically will see that much money. It's no different if you give $1 million to someone that wins the lottery. What's statistical?
But even after 8%, it's still a lot of money.
I know the answer. They've already spent it. So while you guys are getting them that money and they start to think that they're actually going to get it, they've already spent it. And it's not usually for the work that you got it for. I run into that all the time. Even now, homeowners are saying, hey, there's $400,000, but I put a lot of time on the phone and calling you guys. Who's paying me now? And I get that a lot now. The homeowner wants to be paid. And I'm like, well, they're covering your claim. Like, you're in good shape. But they always want to check to themselves now. It's very, very common.
So do you see homeowners committing insurance fraud?
Yes, it happens. Look, there's insurance fraud that happens from from homeowners. There's insurance fraud that happens from public adjusters, contractors, and
hold on,
insurance
public
companies.
Adjuster? What kind of insurance fraud are you guys committing?
Well, let's go back to the first one, right? Moreland, right, where he didn't even have a license, got his best friend, did unethical things in the appraisal process, right? So, gotta always be above board, do things ethically at the end of the day, right? And so, in this situation, the ethical thing to happen would have been the homeowner and the public adjuster get together. If she wants to go in a different direction and say, hey, I'm going to go hire an attorney, and he go, okay, fine, you need to pay me for the work I have done.
And let's also say most of the time claims I would say 99% of the time, a claim is not ready for litigation without a public adjuster preparing the file. The public adjusters are doing way different things than what your attorney does. Like, the attorney took this and might have got over the finish line, but they could not have done that without that public adjuster documenting, writing estimates, reviewing the policy. Would you agree with that's what you see in most of these cases?
Yeah, I think it's I won't say that have to. I will say that files that come from public adjusters to attorneys are much better documented and are, generally speaking, and are on a fast track to get resolved usually. But that depends on the quality of the person and the public adjuster that you're using, right? Because our letters are going to say different things. We're going to bring out policy. We're going to talk about, good faith, bad faith arguments and discussions and points. And, we're going to bring up other things that the contractor cannot, is unable to bring up. Otherwise, they'll get in trouble like our case earlier today.
3 fire cases so far, 3 different lessons. We have 1 story left. We'll cover it after the break. This one is actually very interesting one, and I personally interviewed the owner of this company, 33 Carpenters in Iowa. This is a story about storm contractor who lost $78,000 in Iowa Supreme Court. I'll get you all the details after the break.
Was your insurance claim denied, or did you receive considerably less than you feel is owed? I'm Chad Wilson, and I will fight the insurance companies to get you what your claim deserves. Call the Chad T. Wilson Law Firm or visit claimdenied.com for a free case evaluation. Let us fight for you. It's what we do.
And we are back for the last cup of coffee for the last story today. This one, Sam has details. Go ahead, Sam.
All right. So after a hailstorm in Iowa, 33 Carpenters construction went door to door and found damage on the Clausen's home. The homeowner signed paperwork letting 33 Carpenters talk directly to the insurer, attend inspections, and get paid from the insurance proceeds. State Farm paid based on its own estimate, but the contractor kept pushing for more money. They eventually claimed almost $80,000 over the original $30,000 estimate, and State Farm refused to pay more. 33 Carpenters then had the Clausens assign their entire claim over so they could sue State Farm directly. The case ended up in Iowa Supreme Court, which said 33 Carpenters was acting as an unlicensed public adjuster, the assignment of benefits was void, and 33 Carpenters could not sue State Farm for more money.
Wow. What do you think, Matt?
First, I've never been a big fan of assignment of benefits or assignment of claims. You're giving up your rights to do things as a policyholder, and you probably don't understand all of those things that you're giving up and your abilities and what you're giving up and why. So I would caution anyone in any state. That's why, we talked before. I wasn't a big fan of Florida's assignment of benefits. I think it caused damage to the industry as a whole down in Florida. I'm not a fan of the repercussions that the legislature put through as far as that goes either, because I think they went a bit too far. But, you have to have balance there, and it was swung one way for so long it had to come back. So I don't know that if you've actually signed an assignment of claim or benefits, I'll be honest, I don't understand the ruling of how you could then be acting as an unlicensed public adjuster. That's a bit, because now I own the claim, if you will. It's my claim, so I am the homeowner almost in that scenario. So that makes it, I don't really understand the ruling of the court in this case.
Yeah, I remember it brought up a lot of controversy when it came out for that exact reason. But I'll say the reason I don't like assignment of benefits is the same reason I like appraisal. I always tell people you shouldn't trust the guy that owes you money to tell you how much money they owe you. And insurance companies do it all day. They're like, yeah, we owe you money, but we'll tell you how much money we owe you. You don't get to decide, we do. Same thing, and that's where appraisal takes it out of their hands. When you have assignment of benefits for contractors, or in Illinois where the contractor can be the PA, suddenly the guy that you owe money to is now telling you how much money you owe them, and I could see from the carrier side the frustrations that would cause. Jason, what do you think?
Yeah, I had a lot of issues with assignment of benefits. We saw a lot of contractors take advantage of that. And then now, like you said, it swung so far the other way that homeowners are losing out on what they should be rightfully paid for their claims. So it sucks, was part of that process, but now I get to see that it's really affecting homeowners very badly now after a storm.
Jason, my question to you is: in Florida, once they banned assignment of benefits, did you see good changes for the industry? Did it make a good positive impact, or should we go back to?
I think a lot of the bad players kind of went away. You didn't see as many of those. But now you have to pay the attorney fees more as the homeowner. So that changed a bunch. And so the deductibles went much higher in Florida too. So you pay $30,000 for a roof, then the storm comes through and your deductible is like $15,000 and you just put the roof on like 3 years ago. The homeowner doesn't want to pay that deductible, and it shouldn't. It's not fair that they have to do that. So it definitely swung really hard the other way, and then they come after the roofer now. So now it's all the roofer's fault. Why did my shingles blow off in that storm? They don't have insurance paying for it, so now they're coming after the roofers, and it made it really tough for honest roofers because we want to take care of the homeowner. They had shingles blow off, so it was really difficult for roofers now.
So a few more details in this case. So we're talking about $30,000 claim. So State Farm calculates replacement for $30,000, and then after depreciation deductible, State Farm issues $22,000 check. Contractor supplemented for $24,000 over the original estimate, and after inspecting, State Farm pays additional $15,000, which is a good thing. 22 plus 15, total replacement $40,000. But contractor's second estimate was $77,000, and State Farm just refused to pay more. So it's kind of like a lot of back and forth. Looks like we need a lawyer's opinion here. We don't have a lawyer in the studio, just two public adjusters. But with all of that, like I feel bad for this contractor because Iowa became super, super hard to do business. Like it feels like they're making almost like public beating cases out of contractors there. If you use this word, if you do anything that you're not supposed to be doing, they're coming after you, which is like your marketing, your advertising, your emails now, they're pretty, like in this case, if we, exactly to Sam's point, if they already have assignment of benefit, contractors should be able to meet adjuster without a homeowner.
I think Minnesota, the Department of Labor and Industry in Minnesota did a really great job. They had this bulletin, 2010-4 FAQ or something like that, and it was an FAQ page, and it did a great job of explaining what a contractor can and can't do. And it was a contractor can discuss damage, like this is hail damage, this isn't hail damage, scope of repairs. Hey, in order for me to replace this, I also have to replace that, and means and methods, which I guess goes under the scope. So and pricing. They were allowed to discuss pricing. And I think like that set a precedence that's very clear. And it's cases like this where it's like they clearly did step past that, right? Like your role as a contractor of doing the work. And, I was a contractor in the past, so don't just think I'm a PA that wants every claim sent to me. I really don't. But, as a contractor, it's like you also have so many other hats you're trying to wear. You're trying to build the roof. You're doing AR. For you to then take on this plate of trying to be a PA is not worth the risk, I think.
Agree.
Matt, I have a question for you. Is it a way out for insurance companies just to stop the communication, do what they do? Is like, hey, if you break this rule, because it feels to me that they just don't want to do what they're supposed to do. And it's like, okay, if you broke this rule, we're just not going to pay it. Is it a way out for them?
100%. They know every way out. They study them. They have the money. You want to get the money, and they're going to make you work and earn it. And look, are contractors a target of insurance companies? Yeah, 100%. You're the reason more claims are being filed in every state across the country, right? So they're going to scrutinize that. They're going to pay attention to it. They're going to understand it. But I will say, looking at this and paying attention to this, I think the contractor, I understand what they were trying to do, but I also think when you try and take so many bites at the apple, or put your hand in the cookie jar, eventually it's going to get caught, right? So that's what happened here, and is what it looks like, because you start with here's my estimate. Well, now I'm adding 40 grand more for this. Well, now I'm adding more money for this. And it's like, write a good, competent sheet round one. Don't have to come back and keep supplementing yourself, right? Understand things happen. I'm going to tear the roof off and there's rotted decking and you've got to replace 5 sheets of decking versus the 2 that came with it, right? when you ordered your materials, because, that's how it shows up. So, and you're paying for that, by the way. Don't let carriers think you're not. You're paying for those 2 sheets of decking. So, but, take the pictures and move on, but don't start with a $30,000 estimate, end up with a $100,000 estimate, and you keep taking more bites of the apple. That's just going to open the scrutiny on your claims handling practices more. So,
Jason, let me ask you, like on the contract side, obviously as public adjusters, people come to us when their claims are underpaid and they're just, denied, right? So like 90% what we see is denied claims. As a contractor, what percentage do you feel like, especially being in Florida, that you see that are like, these are fairly paid right off the bat versus how many have to go these other routes?
I don't think most of them are fairly paid. We always send almost every one of them to a PA or a lawyer. And you can see why, because, I have 25 sales reps out there and they might say one wrong word and now I'm out, $80,000 because of one word that they said wrong. People make mistakes and now the contractor's held to it just by something someone verbally said or an email like we saw earlier. So for me, the safest way in any kind of business is hire somebody smarter than you, and especially in that area. So I push all of mine to a PA or attorney because this is your area of expertise, not mine. I'm the contractor. I'll do the work and I'll give you guys like, hey, this is what I think it's going to cost us to do it. And then I let you guys handle the legal part of it. And I don't want to get involved in that.
Well, and you bring up a good point there on this is that, PAs, people, contractors complain about PAs taking a long time working claims and they can't always get them across the finish line. And some have to go to, they go to legal. Well, what you handed me wasn't a case that was paid anyway. There was problems with it. We didn't get hey, this is the super easy one that, even State Farm and Allstate are paying for right out of the box, right? You're giving us the hard ones, the ones that take more time, that are more difficult, that are more complex. And sometimes those can't get done and have to be moved on to an attorney as well, just because having that discussion on the other side is not always received as well as it should be. And case law needs to be made at times.
Absolutely. I'm going to wrap up today's show. Great episode, great stories. Unfortunately, a few sad ones. My summary of today's episode is you need professional help, whether it's a public adjuster or lawyer or a contractor. Everybody has their lane and everybody has their expertise. And also, not all lawyers are equal. If you're going after State Farm, I know a lawyer, a legal firm, Chad Wilson law firm, who actually beat State Farm in courts, right? Like, you don't take any lawyer who just wants to do it pro bono. Do your research, look at the cases they've settled before. It's not easy to sue State Farm and beat them. A lot of contractors think, oh, I have a case, you go after it. Like, those guys know how to beat us too. And if that's not your expertise, you might lose. And 33 Carpenters is one of those cases. When I interview the owner, he told me, Dmitry, I just have a bad lawyer. That's why I lost. And unfortunately, you can't jump in that water twice. You have once in a lifetime opportunity to go after something, and it's going to be even more costly to do it again. Thank you so much for sharing cups with us this morning. And we'll talk to you next week.
In the world of roofing, every shingle, slope, and seal counts. At Work Ninjas, roofing isn't just our trade, it's our craft. With years of steering roofing companies to success, we've mastered the art of scaling businesses. We've built a team ready to support roofing business owners, and our experts are here to help you expand efficiently. Our experienced ninjas provide essential front and back end support. We tackle one-time projects and offer ongoing assistance, helping you streamline operations. Work Ninjas enhances your roofing business with services like customer service, virtual admin assistance, CRM management, commercial and residential estimating, production, billing, supplements, marketing, and more. Our model is straightforward. Flexible pricing, customizable to your needs. Use our services as much or as little as you need, full-time or part-time. When you partner with us, you get direct access to a team that's committed to your business, acting as a natural extension of your own office. Become a partner with the roofing experts at Work Ninjas today, and let's elevate your business to new heights.